I never thought I'd be the kind of man who hides a camera inside his own house. But there I was, on a Tuesday at 1:13 a.m., sitting in the dark of my living room, staring at my phone screen, watching my wife through a grainy hidden image. On the screen, Carla crossed our living room in slow, gray tones. She checked the door, glanced at the clock, and then did something I wasn't ready to see. She opened the door and let a strange man in. He wasn't exactly young, not old either. Early 40s maybe. Dark jeans, plain shirt, the kind of guy you wouldn't recognize but also wouldn't forget if you saw him twice. He stepped inside, looking quickly around, like someone who knows he shouldn't be there. Carla shut the door behind him, nervous, avoiding his eyes. For a second, they just stood there, face to face, in a heavy silence that, from my side of the screen, sounded like a scream. And I just sat there, my heart pounding in my throat, watching everything through a hidden camera disguised as a decorative plant by the TV. But that night didn't really start there. My name is Gustavo. I'm 35, I work as an accountant for a mid-sized logistics company, and up until a few months ago, I would have said I was a decent husband. Maybe even boring. Bills paid on time, no wild nights out, barely drank. Carla used to joke that I was reliable to the point of being predictable. We've been married for 7 years, no kids yet, not for lack of trying, life just had other plans. Maybe that's where some of this started. The negative tests, the quiet disappointment every month, doctor visits, the fake hopeful smiles. We'll just keep trying. I buried my frustration in spreadsheets and overtime. Carla buried hers in, at the time, I thought, secrets. It started small. Carla began getting home later than usual. At first, it was work. New project, demanding client, late meeting. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. But it wasn't just the schedule. Her phone, which used to be tossed on the couch or left charging in the kitchen, suddenly became an extra limb. Bathroom, kitchen, bedroom, always with her, always face down. Notifications silenced. She started locking the bedroom door when I was in the living room. Said she was changing or on a work call. She laughed less, ate less. Spent more time staring at nothing. I did what most people do before they completely lose it. I tried to talk. Carla, are you okay? You've been distant. I'm just tired, Gus. There's a lot going on at work. I get that, but this feels different. You're not really here even when you're home. She looked away. Can we not do this right now? Please? Every time I tried to get closer, she built another wall, another locked door, another, I'm fine. And then there were the calls, always in the hallway, always whispered. One night, close to midnight, I woke up to the low sound of her voice coming from the living room. By the time I got up to see who she was talking to, the call had ended. She pasted on a smile. Couldn't sleep, just scrolling, go back to bed. But something in her eyes was off, not just tired, guilty. At least, that's how I decided to see it. People like to say jealousy comes from insecurity. Maybe that's true. But in my case, I think it also came from one simple, terrifying thought. What if I'm the last one to know? The idea of some other guy walking into my house while I was at work, sitting on my couch, touching my wife, started eating me alive. So I did the thing I swore I'd never do. The thing that draws the line between trust and suspicion. I bought cameras. I told myself it was for home security at first. That's what I told the guy at the electronics store. Small, discreet Wi-Fi cameras with motion detection. One ended up hidden in the plant in the living room. The other, inside what looked like a wireless charging dock on the dresser in our bedroom. I installed them on a Saturday afternoon while Carla was out with a friend. It took less than an hour to turn my own home into a silent witness. I remember standing in the middle of the living room afterward, looking around, feeling something dark settle in my chest. If nothing's going on, I'll finally have peace of mind, I told myself. But deep down, I wasn't looking for peace. I was looking for proof. The first 2 days, nothing happened. Monday. Carla came home exhausted, tossed her bag on the chair, heated leftovers in the microwave, and collapsed on the couch. No secret calls, no visitors, just a worn-out woman staring at a show she wasn't really watching. Tuesday. Same thing. Work, dinner, silence. She disappeared into the bedroom for a long shower and came back with red eyes. "Got soap in my eyes," she said. I knew that wasn't it, but I didn't push. I also didn't see anyone coming over. And that frustrated me. It's a strange thing to admit, but it's true. Part of me was disappointed that I wasn't seeing anything. Because if she wasn't cheating, then the problem wasn't them. It was us. It was me. On Wednesday, everything changed. I was at the office, bored, when my phone buzzed with a motion alert from the living room camera. It was 3:07 p.m. Carla was supposed to be at work. I opened the app. There she was, on my screen, rushing into the apartment, checking the hallway behind her before closing the door. She was in casual clothes, not the office outfit she'd left in that morning. My heart started pounding. She checked the time, then stepped out of frame for a moment. When she came back into view, she was straightening the couch pillows like she was staging the room. Then she walked toward the front door and waited. 2 minutes later, the doorbell rang. I watched her hesitate, then open the door. The same man walked in. Same simple clothes, same tired posture. Just unfamiliar. He scanned the hallway behind her, then stepped inside quickly like he didn't want anyone to see him. Carla closed the door. They stood there for a beat, close but not touching, the kind of distance that can mean everything or nothing. They moved to the couch. The camera angle caught them clearly. I could see their mouths moving, but I couldn't make out much of what they were saying. I cranked the volume up, pressed the phone against my ear, but the mic on that camera was cheap and full of static. Still, I caught pieces. Carla's voice cracked more than once. I heard words like years, didn't know, forgive, secret. The man spoke less. When he did, his tone was low, cautious. After about 40 minutes, they both stood up. Carla walked him to the door. Before he left, he reached out and touched her face. A quick, almost awkward gesture. But she closed her eyes like that touch hurt and healed at the same time. Then he left. I stared at the now empty living room, my thoughts spinning. No over-the-top hugging, no kissing, no obvious flirting. If this was an affair, it was the strangest one I'd ever seen. But if it wasn't an affair, what was it? When Carla came home that night, she acted like nothing had happened. "How was your day?" I asked, watching her closely. "Exhausting. That new client is killing me." She kicked off her shoes, dropped her bag on the same chair like every other night. "Yours?" "Same old," I said, swallowing the urge to scream. "Who was that guy in our house this afternoon?" Instead, I smiled. Helped with dinner. Watched a show with her, side by side on the couch, our bodies touching while our truths were miles apart. I didn't sleep much. The next week, it happened again. Sometimes on a Tuesday afternoon. Sometimes on a Thursday morning when I thought she was at a dentist appointment. Always when I wasn't home. Always the same visitor. The man. My jealousy morphed into something more twisted. At first, I figured he was some kind of older, more experienced, understanding guy. But there was no physical intimacy, no flirting. What I saw instead were two people sitting like something fragile was laid out between them, and one wrong word might shatter it. I became obsessed. I saved every clip. I watched them late at night, living room angles, bedroom angles, looking for anything that made sense. Yeah, bedroom angles. Because one of those days, instead of staying in the living room, Carla led him down the hall into our bedroom. The fake charging dock on the dresser caught them perfectly. Carla on the edge of the bed, fingers twisted in her hands. The man leaning against the wall, arms crossed, like someone trying to hold himself together. The bedroom camera had better audio. I remember the exact moment my world flipped. It was a Friday, around 11:30 p.m. Carla was asleep next to me. I slipped out of bed, took my phone to the bathroom, closed the door, and sat on the edge of the tub. I hit play. On the screen, it was earlier that day. Soft daylight leaking through the curtains. Carla's shoulders tight. "I didn't know," she was saying. "You get that, right? I grew up being told I was an only child, that there was no one else." He took a breath, eyes on the floor. "I didn't know about you either," he said. "I grew up thinking I was just given away, that my mom just didn't want me. Nobody ever mentioned you to me." My stomach twisted. "And then," he went on, "I did that stupid DNA test just for fun, and suddenly there you were. Possible sibling. I stared at your picture like 10 times thinking the app glitched." Carla let out a short, humorless laugh. "I thought it was a glitch too," she said. "My whole life I've been told it's just me. Small family, no siblings, no one else, and then out of nowhere I find out I have you." He finally looked up at her, and that's when I saw it. The same eyes, same shape of the nose, the same way their jaw clenched when they tried not to cry. "You're my sister," Carla whispered. The world around me went completely silent. "It's not that simple," he said quietly. "You're the one who stayed. I'm the one they erased. It's not your fault. Not mine either. But somebody chose which one of us got to exist in the story, and which one had to live like they never happened." Carla wiped at her face angrily. "I don't know what's worse," she said, "finding out they lied to me my whole life, or looking at you and literally seeing my own face, knowing you had every reason to hate me." He shook his head. "I don't hate you," he said, "but I needed to meet you. Even if it was just once. Even if you took one look at me and said, 'I don't want anything to do with this.' I just needed to know you were real." Carla took a deep breath. "And now I have to explain this to my husband," she muttered. "How do I look at him and say, 'So, that guy you've never seen, the one I've been meeting behind your back in our own house, he's not a lover? He's a brother they erased from my life?'" She gave another bitter little laugh. "He already thinks I'm hiding something. If I tell this wrong, it's going to sound exactly like what it's not." Sitting there on the bathroom floor, listening to that through my phone, I felt like someone had shoved a mirror in my face. My wife was living through a story I knew nothing about. A story about being given up, about a brother no one told her existed, about a biological mother who rewrote reality just to survive. And me? I had reduced all of that to one crude suspicion. She must be cheating. He straightened up a little. "Look," he said, "you don't owe me anything. Not a spot in your life, not a title, nothing. I've gone my whole life without you. I can keep doing it. I only came because she begged me." He paused, like he'd almost said too much. "Because she said she couldn't die with this secret." Carla let out a long breath. "And I'm the one who's married," she said softly. "I'm the one who has to look him in the eye and explain why I've been meeting some random guy in our house when he's not here. Even if I tell him the truth, it's going to feel like betrayal." She was right. Even if it wasn't an affair, it looked exactly like one. I paused the video. My reflection stared back at me in the dark part of the screen. A man with dark circles under his eyes, jaw tight, holding his phone like a weapon. I replayed her last line in my head over and over. It's going to feel like betrayal, even if it's not an affair. I'd spent weeks convinced I was being cheated on in the most straightforward way, but what was really happening was so much messier. My wife was being betrayed by her own past, and I was too afraid, too wrapped up in my own fear to see anything beyond my jealousy. When the clip ended, I just sat there on the bathroom floor for a long time, phone dark in my hand, head in my hands. I felt like I'd broken into a room inside my wife's soul that she hadn't even finished opening for herself. And I hadn't knocked. I'd installed a camera. I didn't sleep that night either. The next morning I called in sick, stayed home pacing, waiting for Carla to come back from work. When she finally walked through the door that evening, keys jingling, calling my name like it was any other day, my throat closed up. "Hey, you're home early," she said. We need to talk, I said. Her face shifted instantly into that defensive look, the one that says, "What did I do now?" "What's going on?" she asked, half tired, half annoyed. "I installed cameras," I blurted out. She froze. "What?" "I installed 2 hidden cameras, one in the living room, one in the bedroom." Silence. Her eyes scanned the room like she could suddenly see every lens. "You spied on me?" Her voice came out thin. "In our bedroom?" "Yes," I said, because there was no way to make it sound less ugly than it was. "I thought you were having an affair." Something in her expression broke. Not anger at first, not even shock, but this deep, tired sadness. Like someone who's been bracing for a hit for a long time and finally feels it land. "And?" she asked. "Did you catch your little whore?" The words sliced through me. "No," I whispered. "I caught something else." She laughed, a dry, bitter sound. "I bet you did." I put my phone on the table between us. "I know," I said quietly. "About him, about the DNA test, about your brother." Her face went pale. She reached for the phone like she was going to grab it, then let her hand fall halfway. "You had no right," she whispered. "I know. You had absolutely no right to dig into something I haven't even finished understanding myself." "I know," I said again, and this time I really did. She sank into a chair, staring at nothing. "So," she finally said, voice shaking, "what do you think I am now? A monster? A liar? A cheater? Or just the daughter of a coward who gave a baby away and built a brand new family on top of his absence?" I sat down across from her, feeling smaller than I've ever felt. "I think you're someone who just had her entire life story rewritten without her consent," I said. "And I think, instead of standing next to you while you processed that, I pointed a camera at you and made up my own version." She looked at me, eyes wet and furious. "You thought I was cheating," she said slowly. "And in a way, I was. Not with another man, with another version of myself. One I didn't show you." She shook her head. "When my biological mother reached out after that DNA match, I almost blocked her. She said, 'I'm your mother.' I said, 'My mother is dead.' She said, 'Your mother is very much alive and very ashamed.'" Carla let out a mirthless laugh. "I thought it was a scam, but the details, the dates, the tiny things my parents had told me, it all lined up." She pressed her fingers to her temples. I felt the floor open under me. Suddenly I had a brother out there, a whole missing chunk of family. And you know what my first instinct was? I shook my head. "To protect you," she said. "Isn't that ironic?" I thought, if I tell Gustavo he's going to blow up or go into fix-it mode, he'll start calling people, confronting my parents, trying to solve this. And I didn't even know if I wanted it solved. I just wanted to sit with it for a second. She looked at me with a mix of hurt and accusation. "I lied to protect the man who was secretly installing cameras in our home." I swallowed. "You're right to hate me for that," I said. "For the cameras, for not trusting you enough to ask instead of spying, for turning your pain into my paranoia." She didn't answer. We sat in silence for a long time. Eventually, I broke it. "What are you going to do?" I asked. "About him, your brother?" She sighed. "I don't know," she said honestly. "Part of me wants to erase him. Say, they erased you from my story, I erase you from mine. Another part, when I look at him, I see my own face. And when he talks about being poor, about shame, about that small town where a pregnant girl was the end of the world, I hear my grandmother's voice. I hear the same religion, the same fear. I hate what they did, but I recognize the world that made them do it." She looked back at me. "And you? What are you going to do with what you saw?" I thought about it. "I can't unsee it," I said. "And I can't pretend I didn't blow through your privacy in the worst possible way. You have every right to leave me over this. every right to never trust me again. I took a breath. But if there's even a small part of you that still wants me in this story, I'd like to be there. Not as the guy with the cameras, as the guy who sits next to you while you decide if this secret destroys your family or helps you rebuild it differently. Her eyes filled again. You really think this can help rebuild anything? She asked. They erased a whole person from my life. They lied to my face for decades. I think, I said slowly, choosing every word, that the truth hurts more when it shows up late. But that doesn't mean it's useless. It can still stop the next lie. If you two ever have kids, for example, you'll know exactly what story you're going to tell them. You don't have to repeat this. You can tell the whole truth, ugly and all, not the edited version. That's something. She wiped her cheeks. And what about our truth? She asked. What does this do to us? Fair question. I looked at my hands, at the invisible crack where our trust had split. I thought you were cheating with another man, I said quietly. Turns out the real betrayal was me choosing suspicion over conversation. And in your family, the betrayal wasn't about romance. It was about reality. They didn't cheat on each other. They cheated the truth. They cheated you. I met her eyes. I don't know if our marriage survives this. The cameras, the secrets, generations of lies behind you and all my insecurity behind me. The only thing I do know is that from now on, if something feels off, I want to ask before assuming. I want to sit in the discomfort of not knowing instead of filling the silence with the worst story I can imagine. She let out a breath that sounded like it had been trapped in her chest for weeks. I don't forgive you, she said. It hurt, but it was honest. Not yet. Maybe not for a long time. What you did with those cameras, it makes me feel watched inside my own skin. I nodded. I deserved that. But, she added after a pause, I also don't want to carry this alone anymore. She leaned back in her chair. I'm going to tell you everything, she said, about the DNA test. The first message, the first time I met him. I'll show you the emails, the dates, the texts. Not because you installed cameras, but in spite of that. Because if we have any shot at this, it's with everything on the table, even the parts that make both of us look bad. Something loosened in my chest. Okay, I said, and after that, we decide. Together. What to do about your parents, about him, about us. Carla nodded slowly. And the cameras? She asked. I got up without saying a word, went to the living room, unplugged the one in the plant, and brought it back. Then I went to the bedroom, took the fake dock, tore it apart with my hands until the tiny lens cracked. I put both broken pieces on the table. No more eyes where there's supposed to be trust, I said. For a long time, we didn't tell anyone. Not her parents, who were still living in their carefully edited version of events. Not my friends, who would have said, see, you were right to be suspicious. They weren't right. I wasn't right. Nobody was. Months later, Carla decided to confront her parents. I was there when she told them about the DNA match, the brother, the baby given away. Her dad denied everything at first. Her mom cried. All the ugly old history poured out, poverty, shame, a pastor saying a child without a father is better off out of sight, grandparents choosing reputation over blood. It was awful. It was necessary. Her brother is still in our lives carefully. Sometimes he comes over for coffee, sometimes they just text. Her biological mother calls every now and then. Carla answers when she has the emotional energy to handle it. As for us, we're still together, but we're not the same. There's a kind of scar between us now. The memory of that tiny black lens in the corner of the room. The knowledge that when things felt wrong, I chose surveillance instead of vulnerability. I keep that scar where I can see it. Because if there's one thing I learned through all of this, it's that not every betrayal is about sex or romance. Some are quieter, more insidious. A parent who erases a child from the family story. A husband who erases his wife's right to privacy in the name of truth. I thought the worst thing I could find on those recordings was my wife in another man's arms. Instead, I found her sitting with a brother full of absence, trying to figure out who she really is. And me, outside that room, ready to judge her for not letting me in fast enough, when I'd never really earned that kind of trust. So before you install a camera to prove you're right, ask yourself, what if what you discover isn't that someone is betraying you, but that you've been living inside a story that's only half true? If you saw yourself on that screen, your tone, your suspicions, your silence, would you still be sure you were the victim? Or would you realize, like I did, that sometimes the real betrayal isn't against the relationship? It's against the truth itself. And you? Have you ever uncovered a secret about your family that changed everything you thought you knew about yourself? Or found out the lie wasn't about love, it was about the past? Tell me in the comments. I read all of them. Maybe your story is the next truth just waiting to be recorded.